Hello friends, welcome to today's live sessions. Today again we are going to start with some English news articles where we will learn about what is happening around the world. Let's start with a business article today. I'm opening this Forbes India page, Forbes India. Here we can find many news articles. Bhargav's big rethink on boosting car sales to the ESG storm, disrupting clear mobility, our top stories of the week. So this is the page where we will read many business articles. It will help you to learn about business environment, strategic management, and different aspects how a business runs. So let's start with a really new article. We have already read this IPL interrupted looking back at the tournament's past disruptions. We have already done with this article. So today we are going to start a new article. The article is Buy Then Build, Be an Entrepreneur Without the Startup. Forbes India. This is a very good article by Forbes India. Let's open it. It is taking a while. I'll hit the back button and then again open this. Where is the paragraph? Okay, this one is the paragraph. Buy then build. Be an entrepreneur without the startup. Forget coding in garages. A growing number of entrepreneurs are skipping the startup grind and buying existing businesses instead. Let's read. Think entrepreneurship and what comes to mind? A hoodie clad geek writing code for the next big internet product in their parents' garage, or an engineer tinkering with machines in a workshop. Perhaps go-getters studying spreadsheets and flowcharts looking for the minimum viable product. How about this? An MBA student poring over databases and financial statements in search of a great business for sale. This is not the stereotypical entrepreneur who develops the next Amazon and hopes it takes off. This belongs to a growing breed of entrepreneurs taking a different route to business ownership, buying existing companies rather than building them from scratch. So this article, what does this says? It says that instead of starting a business from scratch and then working hard to build it, to grow it, instead of it, what today some people are doing, they're just taking over a well-established business or an already established business and working upon it to grow it. Known as entrepreneurship through acquisition, ETA. The short form is ETA. Entrepreneurship through acquisition. This pathway offers lower risk yet often better financial returns than the average startup. Entrepreneurs, often recent MBA graduates, raise capital from investors to finance their search for an established company to acquire and operate. Now, what MBAs are doing, MBA graduates are doing, they are finding investors so that they can acquire a well-established business that has already been established by someone. They are just acquiring it and working to grow it, to operate it. A 2024 study by Stanford University shows that search funds formed in the United States and Canada since 1984 have achieved an average return on investment ROI of 4 into 5x. Outside North America, 59 new international search funds were created and a total of 31 companies were acquired in 2023 alone, according to a report by IESE Business School. Let's read more about it. At InSeed, where Ivana have been teaching ETA, there is a writer who wrote this article. At InSeed, where have been teaching ETA and search funds for nearly 10 years, we see a growing appetite among our graduates for this rewarding career path. More than 100 search funds and other ETA vehicles have been launched by InSeed students and alumni in recent years, some of whom pioneered the first search funds in new geographies. It is therefore timely that InSeed has launched the ETA and Search Funds Hub to help entrepreneurs with connections, knowledge, and resources to succeed in ETA, while supporting investors with access to this high performing assets class. The hub will also leverage InSeed's global network to advance education, research, and value creation on ETA. Our next key event is the InSeed ETA conference on May 10. Buy and build versus build from scratch. There are two different aspects: buy and build versus build from scratch. My students often ask, I want to be an entrepreneur, but should I do it through a startup or ETA? The answer isn't always straightforward, but I have noticed a pattern. Those who choose up entrepreneurship through startups are typically passionate about a specific product or service and are mission driven. Those who take the acquisition path are passionate about managing and improving businesses regardless of industry. To make an informed decision about which path to take, aspiring entrepreneurs need to understand the rewards and challenges of each route. Here is a quick roundup. To make an informed decision about which path to take, aspiring entrepreneurs need to understand the rewards and challenges of each route. Here's a quick roundup about it. Startups, innovation driven ventures. The traditional startup model typically emphasizes disruptive innovation and rapid scaling, often requiring significant technological advantage and financial capital in its initial phases. It appeals to founders driven by a mission to revolutionize industries and solve problems in the market. Startups, innovation driven ventures. The traditional startup model typically emphasizes disruptive innovation and rapid scaling, often requiring significant technological advantage and financial capital in its initial phases. It appeals to founders driven by a mission to revolutionize industries and solve problems in the market. To succeed, founders must not only develop a compelling solution but also convince investors and eventually customers. Creativity, innovation, and product market fit are crucial. Moving ahead, startups are inherently high risk ventures. They require patience, resilience, and high risk tolerance, often relying on multiple injections of investment capital and guidance from investors. On the flip side, successful startups deliver outsized returns, often exceeding 10x to their investors. Airbnb, for one, overcame regularity hurdles and skepticism before hitting 100 billion US dollars in market value by 2020, 12 years after it was created. Instead, alumnus Tobias Vencura, MBA 06J, is one entrepreneur who has experienced both startup and acquisition. Vencura co-founded and later successfully exited Nano's nanotechnology venture. Our startup was technologically based and came right out of university. Vencura says, you do something at university technology wise, you push boundaries, and then you think that you could be a market. We established a company and that worked out well. Vencura is an outlier. 90% of startups fail by some estimates. Moreover, true product innovation is increasingly challenging. Even where startups have a viable product, they need founders who are versatile and able to pivot to succeed. Perseverance is also a must. While we were starting to do sales, we were there Saturday, Sunday, every day, recalls Vencura. So here was an example of Vencura. How did she establish a business and from scratch and also acquired a business? Entrepreneurship through acquisition, optimizing operations and strategy. This is the new technique which we are discussing. You all might be knowing about entrepreneurship from scratch, from building a new startup. But now we are going to learn about entrepreneurship through acquisition, optimizing operations and strategy. As long as businesses have existed, there have also been businesses for sale, complete with established management infrastructure, customers, and cash flow. A contemporary version of this practice is the management by in MBI, whereby external managers acquire a controlling interest in a company. Consider the ETA ecosystem, an evolution of the MBI. It has structures that are more accessible and appealing to a new generation of entrepreneurs and investors, not least because there is less uncertainty compared to building from scratch. Yeah, this is the biggest advantage of ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition. The biggest advantage is that it has less uncertainty compared to building from scratch. However, finding and acquiring a good business involves screening and engaging with hundreds, if not thousands, of companies and owners, only to be rewarded with rejection and disappointment more often than not. Convincing a business owner that you are the right person to preserve and advance their legacy demands resilience, meticulous due diligence, a strategic approach to identifying viable opportunities, and importantly, empathy and humility. But to Vancura, ETA is well worth the effort. After successfully selling NanoS and spending some time in the technology industry, Vancura decided to become an entrepreneur through acquisition. He bought CO2 Bors, a Swiss car import service and carbon emission trading firm in a self-funded acquisition. The risks involved with a startup are much higher than when you buy a cash generating business, he says. Three most popular approaches to ETA. Entrepreneurship through acquisition. There are numerous approaches to ETA, some more established than others, with more still emerging. Let's focus on three foundational types. Self-funded. Searchers use their own savings or pursue the search part-time while holding a job. Instead, alumni have succeeded with both approaches. However, part-time searchers usually have less success finding and acquiring a business. Businesses acquired through self-funded searches are typically smaller, below 5 lakh US dollars, 500,000 US dollars in EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation and amortization. This approach attracts entrepreneurs who prefer not to be bound by the criteria imposed by traditional ET investors. However, this comes at the cost of smart money. Investors who bring not only financial resources but also expertise and guidance throughout the search, acquisition, operation, and exit phases. Search fund. A searcher takes a fund of around US $500,000, US 800,000 if there are two searchers, from multiple investors, typically 8 to 20, to finance the search for a target. The search phase typically lasts 1 to 3 years. Searchers look for targets that are ripe for succession, align with their skills, and have potential for growth and operational improvements. These targets also need to meet the well-defined criteria of search fund investors. Businesses acquired by a search fund tend to be larger than those targeted by self-funded searchers, with around 1.5 million US dollars EBITDA. The investors that finance the search phase have right of first refusal. They hold an option that gives them the right but not an obligation to invest in the target proposed by the searchers. Sponsored by a single investor. In a sponsored search, the entrepreneur partners with a single primary investor, often a family office, an accelerator, or a PE fund that provides capital for the search and eventual acquisition. The sponsor who holds an option not only contributes financially but often proactively participates in the search and subsequent operations, compared to the search fund model, which involves a more fragmented investor base. The characteristics of the target business can vary. What matters most is the fit between the target and the investor. Some investors prefer businesses that align closely with the traditional search fund criteria, while others are open to distressed businesses. Sponsored searches suit entrepreneurs who value having a dedicated financial partner with substantial resources, even if it comes at the expense of some autonomy. Among the three approaches, the search fund model is the most popular among aspiring entrepreneurs, straight out of their MBA for its balance of support and decision making control. The mentorship and operational guidance provided by investors enhance both the probability of acquisition success and post acquisition performance. So, this was today's article. I hope that you people have benefited from it. Thank you for joining in. I'll meet